Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money,
Dollar.
Welcome to the Free Money Podcast. It's where we bring you the Brooklyn Bay Area consensus about institutional investing that you desperately crave.
Yes. And as of yesterday, soon we will have independence from the COVID. And the date will be Independence Day.
Yep, May 1st.
May 1st is when everybody gets vaccinated, but Independence Day is July 4th, Sloan.
I celebrate a different kind of Independence Day. I'm querying the construct, Ashby.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. But I'm like blown away by this because that means we might have a somewhat normal summer. Like you might be able to like get on an airplane and go somewhere.
I mean, yeah, it's time to buy some freaking patio furniture and invite the neighbors over and do barbecues, you know?
That's legit.
Yeah. But like, I mean, actually a plane, like I might even go in the subway.
Yep. I think a lot of people, well, I saw a bunch of crabby people on the Twitter sphere who were like, July 4th, go live your lives. This is baloney. So there's that part. But then there's also the part that's like, wow, like, are we through this? Like, like to me, July 4th, I mean, we've been in for a year. It just doesn't feel like that far away. It's March.
Yeah. I mean, that's a couple months. You know, that's no big deal.
Yeah.
Like,
so I just found that was awesome.
I can't believe, I mean, like, it's really, you know, we got to 2.5 million vaccines a day, lickety split. And then right before that, that bill was passed, they bought another 100 million vaccines from Merck and J&J. It's these like governments, I guess, when they, they can do stuff kind of sometimes.
It's almost as if, good government can do good things.
That's so weird.
It's true, but you know.
That goes against everything I've learned from Ayn Rand and the Chicago School of Economics.
Ooh, there we go.
Shots fired.
But to say, like, I have to tell you that the amount of anxiety I've had around my parents' well-being it was very high, and I knew that when they got they're in their late 70s, and so they've now had both doses of the vaccine. And it's like I feel like a weight off just knowing that COVID's not going to kill them.
Yeah, same. I mean, like I actually had dinner with my grandparents for the first time this year, like a couple of weeks ago.
Wow.
Like we got the whole family together, and we still did masks and social distance, but we were like, there was no chance we were going to kill my 90-year-old grandparents.
Yeah.
Which rules.
Sloan, I'm reminded of how young you are that you still have alive grandparents. I am sadly probably a decade removed from having grandparents. But
we of Mormon stock are simply long-lived.
Yeah, those Canadians up there, it's too cold.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't go that long.
Freeze to death.
I have news.
Oh, we like news.
News about the world of pension funds and asset owner investors and freeing money from the chains of short-termism. And it's definitely real this time, the news that I have. News number one is about the ESG craze.
People like those.
Out that the ESG craze, environment, social governance criteria being included into decision making, is actually good for your financial performance. It continues to be true. It continues to be true, Sloan. Morningstar said this week that its ESG screened indices outperformed in 2020, and in case you thought this was a 2020 phenomenon, over the last 5 years, while offering more downside protection. Now, for me, that's just like exactly what I thought it would do. And
why wouldn't you want that?
I like the confirmation bias I'm getting right now out of this data. But then also in the same news story, snuggled in there, is a news tidbit out of MSCI where they've figured out that ESG should be a new fundamental factor that you include as a factor to understand your portfolio, and that it is tied to long-term earnings growth for companies. High ESG is linked with long-term earnings growth. And I think long-term earnings growth is good.
I'm going to try and keep my skeptic hat on and assume that that's not just a ploy to sell data. Or skeptic, yeah, my skeptic hat off, rather.
Yeah, you had it on. Basically called BS.
Yeah. I mean, like, I love the intuition. I love the, but it's like, there's 100 asset managers out there. All of them are like, yes, we've been in on the ESG since the ground floor.
You know what? You just ruined it, because now I'm sitting here thinking about it. Now I'm like, you know what? Actually, I know that all these organizations have like huge pressure to sell ESG data.
Yep. Yeah. Sloan the Grinch or tell.
Yep. Screwed up my story. Moving on. Story number 2. This one I love. This is more confirmation bias for me. I'm in the echo chamber, just loving life. Pension funds that pay their chief investment officers more, in fact, pay them in the top quartile among pension funds, can expect to outperform by 25 to 47 basis points annually, according to a news article I read on the Institutional Investor Magazine website.
Good website.
It is a good one. And the quote that I saw, which I loved, was, "It's completely intuitive. Pensions that pay more seem to hire better."
Yeah, that's a good quote. I mean,
a good quote. And the reason I loved it, which I couldn't fit in the tweet I wrote, is like, it may be intuitive, but I can find you many people and organizations who still find ways not to do it.
Yep.
So for you pension CIOs out there, we're fighting for you. We're getting the word out.
You're not paid enough, baby. I mean, like, what is that thing from, what's that movie with Tom Hanks or Tom Cruise in it? Show me the money.
Yep.
Show you the money.
I had a few friends say, you pay peanuts, you get monkeys.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's also a way of saying something very short to explain.
Do monkeys eat peanuts, or is it elephants?
I
don't know.
It really should be if you pay bananas.
Yeah, exactly. You pay crazy pay, you get the monkeys. There you go.
You might get elephants.
Exactly, which rules. I mean, everyone loves an elephant.
Jesus Christ! I mean,
if you pay
long-term thinking.
If you pay krill, you might get a whale.
Oh, wonderful. I do have one more news story, which is probably going to take us down the drain of insanity. And it's about tokens. Token. My favorite token news is all of the non-fungible tokens that are going on right now. Somebody sold a non-fungible token, which we can talk about later, but for $68 million.
Yep, and they get 10% of every future sale.
So, like, this is real.
Yeah.
So the news out, which I'm focusing on this topic first, is how the institutional investors are dealing with tokens. And it turns out in Asia Pacific, I read a story about how the big institutional investors there, specifically the sovereign funds in Singapore and the pension fund in Korea, are taking a big interest in tokens now. They haven't, according to the news, begun to buy the tokens. So you're not going to see them holding crypto kitties just yet, or buying into Jack's tweet. Or whatever Jay-Z's about to sell. I don't know, but I'm sure he is selling something because he's good at that.
He's good at that, yeah.
But they are supporting the platforms that facilitate that exchange. A picks and shovels kind of approach to this token craze. And so there you go. I thought that was fascinating to see finally some of these big institutions getting in to this kind of new world of finance, but doing it through kind of a broader approach than picking and choosing the token.
Yeah. I was in prepping for this episode, I was thinking a lot about that Gartner hype cycle, right? Where things go through this asymptotic or this parabolic rise and then a fall, and then they sort of rise to this thing that they call the plateau of productivity. And I actually put a quick chart up on the new and revitalized freemoneypodcast.com right before this. That has blockchain search volume and the hype cycle itself. And you know what? It's a pretty perfect match.
Wow.
which is pretty cool. I mean, like, I think, there's tons of negative things. Like USAID, the US Development Agency, apparently studied like 43 instances of using the blockchain for development finance. And the dude who did the survey is like a huge blockchain booster. And they found no evidence of even a small success. um, you know, and like, IBM, who was like all about crypto at one point, has cut their crypto team down to zero. And that Binance, the exchange that we talked about with the fabulous Lindsay Holden a couple of weeks ago, is now under investigation by the CFTC. Ripple is under investigation by the SEC. So there's plenty of sketchy headlines, but you also see things like the Associated Press reported election results via the Ethereum blockchain this year. Which that's like an actual application.
Yeah.
And like,
I'm seeing a lot of startups, by the way, that are fully legit using blockchain as like the core data architecture. So it's not like they're selling a product that's blockchain. They're selling a product that's like data and analytics, but blockchain is kind of hidden. And that's where it's going to go for a while.
And like, if there's entrepreneurial activity, like the natural question is, where's the investment activity, right? Like, are big investors like actually hopping on board with this thing? And like, can we expect to be sitting at investment conferences and like hearing stuff like, oh yeah, we just bought a whole bunch of, shares in, I don't know, Binance before too long.
Well, I mean, people are definitely asking me like, hey, when are pension funds going to get into crypto? And I think the answer is like, if by that you mean buying crypto tokens or buying Bitcoin, I think it'll be a while. But I think like, if what you mean by that is, supporting companies that are building blockchains or using blockchains for some pipes and wires inside their organization. And so we're going to call, or at least have my good friend Marcel Prins, who is the chief operating officer of the biggest pension fund in Europe, which is a large continent, join us and tell us about how if they see blockchain as potentially helping them do what they do.
I realized I stereotype the Dutch as being really innovative, but it's entirely because of APG. It really is. I was like talking to Claire about this, and I was like, oh yeah, he's from the Dutch fund, so he's like really, really innovative, obviously. And she's like, what?
But PGGM, both the big Dutch funds are known for being like incredibly professional. Like they're using technology and data, and PGGM for like leading the world in impact and ESG investing. Like
that's right.
Probably the world's best. I think it was like 7 or 8 years ago that they're like, yeah, we're going to put 10% of our fund in ESG and impact. And everybody was like, what?
Yeah, I remember we filmed a conversation in the office about that. Maybe in like 2013 or something.
Yes!
Marcel, oh my gosh. Thank you so much.
Welcome to the Free Money Podcast. We're thrilled to have you. Thank you for coming to us on your Friday night. Hopefully you've had 1 or 2 beverages that will loosen or make you more willing to just make you willing to share.
I'm a sharing person by nature, Ashby. You know that. So that's And I was really thinking, shall I get a drink, Friday evening drink? But then my Dinglish might become a little bit slurryish. So I thought that might have been too much. So
well, thank you. I've introduced you. Everybody knows you are the chief operating officer of the biggest pension in Europe. And we were talking a little bit about how some of the big sovereign funds and pension funds in Asia are supporting tokenization and blockchain by investing in the exchanges. And then we got into a kind of a conversation around what are tokens and blockchain and really technology going to do inside the world of pension funds. And so obviously we want to call you your chief operating officer of one of the most innovative pension plans. At least that's what most people think. We'll hear from you if that's true. But first, let's ask you about the blockchain. I'm not sure people realize this in here, but you guys tried a blockchain-based pension administration system all the way back in 2017. How did that work, and how's it going?
The company is doing great, which is literally bottom line. The journey we went on was indeed on what can we do with that blockchain. We are fundamental believer that technology can help solving frictions and inefficiencies in the marketplace. And as you know, I hate to waste pensioners' money. So everything that we can do to leverage technology and making sure that things will be smoothened out, that's great. So we really were then in a discovery stage in what the current generation of technology could mean for us, whether it be alternative data, AI, machine learning, blockchain, cloud stuff, all the buzzwords that's hanging around, and then apply that to pensions there. There were some youngsters in the company that really went into fully blockchain mode there. Where I think one of the biggest issues within the Dutch pension system is if you move from one to the other pension system, which is called, you take your defined benefit share with you, and you want that value portability from one to the other fund. So which is very inefficient, because then one pension fund, you need to apply for a transfer of your money, and then the others, and then they start to write to each other, which is pretty inefficient. So what if your blockchain can be, I would say, the admin for your personal pension accruals there, where your employer can make sure that also the monthly contribution will be put on the blockchain, where the pension fund can look what the total accruals is of all the pensions, where the tax authority can take a look and see what's the value, but also government can take a look. But basically, so it's your own portable pension admin there. This went pretty well. And actually, as was in the news in the Netherlands a few months ago, we sold that company as APG. We transferred it to a different organization. And the company is now called Hyphen, Hyphen, Hyphen. Because the idea is much more portable than only solving frictions in the Dutch pension landscape. So these boys and girls, very proud of them. They're now really targeting the international marketplace there, but also eyeing to the insurance markets there. And that's not our core business as APG. So then we think it's a cool idea, and we give all the support to the team to make sure that they find a new place to grow this business.
That's fascinating stuff. I mean, so it sounds like you were doing kind of like it seems like it started as like shifting existing functionality onto the blockchain, and then grew into like, wow, we can pioneer all kinds of new stuff. Using that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there, the interesting bit is how to get the players around the table there. So you can have a cool idea, but it's similar to a fax machine. If I'm the only one with a fax machine, anybody still has a fax machine? I don't know. But if you do not have a recipient, it's not really helping.
Pensions have fax machines.
Yeah, they definitely do.
Pensions normally don't spin out.
Here in America.
I'm not sure if we have a fax machine at APG. It's a good question. So I might be tempted to ask for that.
Obviously, there's a listener nodding. We have one. We have one.
Oh, okay. That's, if we have one too, then I'll send you a fax on Monday.
Good job spinning out a tech company from a pension plan. I mean, honestly, like if you just kind of say it like that, you started a tech company inside a public pension plan, and now it's spun out and it's working. That's pretty wild.
I think it's pretty cool, and it's all the credits to the team there. Because these were also people that were on the payroll who took the step to being an entrepreneur with their own cool idea that they brought to fruition, and basically also drove to success with bringing other pension funds. I must say, extremely solid collaborations with PGGM. The other large pension fund here in the Netherlands there, but also other actors in the whole system there. So it's pretty cool, and I'm so proud of that team. So
you're just hoping it's a harbinger of portability in a whole bunch of other pension schemes. I mean, it's not really a thing that we do over here.
No, but I think that's what you see, and Ashby knows all about that. I think there would be so much more power if pension funds and asset owners would, I would say, collaborate more and more and more closely there. But that's trust and time, and that's the prerequisites here.
Yeah. I mean, it's really it seems like you guys are up to all sorts of stuff. Like I was explaining that I was chatting to you as my partner, and I was like, oh yeah, Marcel's from the Dutch pension fund, so they're really innovative. Which I don't think that she had as a stereotype for the Netherlands in general. But for us in pension land, it's sort of kind of an assumed thing. So it sounds like you're using this stuff and you're creating this broader ecosystem. Like, what else have you got going on?
I can share some things, and sometimes it's always interesting that you want to know what I'm not talking about instead of what I'm sharing. But it's the high secret alpha signal detecting stuff there. But I think the hottest thing around the planet is at this moment, I think, the planet. So everything around the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN. ESG, even in Canada, ESG now is high on the agenda there, where I think many parties discover that a shallow approach to ESG creates vulnerability if Morningstar start to re-rate, I would say, the ESG offerings there. So then you're not ESG at all. So I think literally at this moment, again, our clients challenged us with new goals towards 2025 around investments in the UN towards the UN Sustainable Development Goals, even more reducing our carbon footprint, but also some of the bigger mega trends. And then you come at the heart of, I think, what the biggest challenge will be. Where to find the appropriate data and what to do with all that data. And as I sometimes say, that the biggest challenge ahead will be that know your client is easy. We think it's a big problem, but know your data, that will be the single biggest challenge going forward there. And do you know your data? Do you trust your data? And what decisions do you take on your data of, I would say, mixed quality there? So that's really, sorry, please go ahead, Ashby.
I have a couple. Sloan, feel free to jump in. I have a couple that I'm just thinking of right now. So feel free to jump in, Sloan, if you feel like I'm taking this in the wrong direction. But we talked about how you spun out a tech company, but also when you guys got going on the SDG platform, this asset owner platform, it's my understanding that you guys bought a tech company.
We bought, that's that was 2019, so that's already some time ago. Indeed, we had to solve some problems on how to select, I would say, companies that would be sustainable development investments there. Okay. So data and AI all along. We collaborated there with the innovation team of Deloitte in the Netherlands there, which went pretty well. Very satisfied there. And then for various reasons, we ended up indeed taking over the whole Deloitte innovation team, which is now also an independent entity called Entis, ENTIS. www.entis.com.
I sent the show notes plug.
It's GDPR compliant, so I'm good. I think MiFID and GDPR compliant. No, but this team now is indeed applying AI machine learning techniques to select a appropriate investable universe. But then we thought this is a cool solution for us, but this is a broader solution. So that's when we reached out to some of the asset owners that we collaborate with very closely, like again PGGM, but also Australian Super, our friends in Australia, but also BCI, British Columbia Investments there, Vancouver Island, cool place. And with the four of us, we decided to start the SDI Asset Owner Platform, where from an APG side, we again spun out our intellectual property on this solution there, which is now being co-owned by the four of us. Where there's I would say, a big interest also from other asset owners to see if they want to join in driving this initiative. But even more cooler is that we are in a partnership with Contigo, the data distributor, and that the products that we're using actually in our own investment process can now be acquired for all asset owners or asset managers there via Contigo, where it's not I would say, the intent to have this as revenue or profit driven, but the income can be utilized to develop the product even further, which comes to the benefit again to the pensioners there. So again, I think an efficient solution avoiding wasting pensioners' money. So that's
Marcel,
with cool tech.
I expect that if there's some American pension plan employees on here that don't know about APG, their head exploded like probably 3 or 4 minutes ago. Rest in peace. But I'm telling you, like the amount of innovation you just described, acquiring companies, spinning out companies, partnerships with major data platforms, owning the IP, sharing the IP, all this stuff is very impressive. And I spend my life studying these organizations. Can you just like do a little bit of the boring bit, which is what is going on with your governance and your culture and your management to allow this to happen? Is it just because you're Dutch and we shouldn't try to replicate it? Or is it because the organization got designed some way that we could replicate?
Well, at the beginning, I think we have a pretty traditional organization there. You have the investment side. These are the people that earn the money. As CEO, I'm allowed to spend it, which is, I think, I would say, the basic segregation of duty in the organization there. So that helps. But all jokes aside, I think, Ashby, you're touching here on, I think, some of the key ingredients for an organization. I think we took there the difficult and long road there, where it's intellectually everybody knows that this stuff is important. I think, and then you have two hurdles. Conceptually, this can be pretty difficult stuff. And having a consultant presenting it on a PowerPoint with 7 blocks and some arrows, then it might make sense. But the tricky bit is, I think, the third part, and that is bringing it towards execution there. I think the biggest hurdle I would say from a cultural perspective here, is that you really have to allow yourself also to learn. And literally, you were referring to 2017. We literally started in 2016, 17, 18, while we were busy with other traditional stuff, to just learn what is this technology, what can it do, and not on the fringes. If you immediately put it too far away, that's not really helping. So we started with bringing technology to the people, just tickling their curiosity, so to say. After which we went on the Innovation Awards. Which team has the big idea? Yeah, celebrating and our CEO awarding the Innovation Award.
Yeah.
Which is basically then also making sure that people reckon that as senior management, this is important.
Right.
And ultimately then starts, I would say, the early adopters in the organizations that try to pull and just allow them to do stuff without bringing governance in too hard, so to say. And now, after 3 years of allowing us to learn with some pretty nice successes there, now comes indeed the boring stuff, like our information governance board. What about what we call information assurance? So we have 5-star information assurance governance product. Like you can only use certain information products depending on the quality of the data, process, and systems. If you report to the regulator, it should be 5-star quality. But a single portfolio manager behind his or her desk, you can do not take a big decision there. So data can be of mixed quality. That's okay-ish. You can even use Excel. So those are the governance boundaries that you gradually need to be putting in place, which is also, I think, ultimately a must-do. Because topics like, can you explain your algorithm? How do you come to a decision? Can you prove your data lineage? Here in the Netherlands, the accountant and the Dutch regulator, the Dutch Central Bank, this becomes part of the conversation, parts of the governance, and parts of the mandatory regulations there. So allowing yourself to learn, please, American friends and all the others, do it quickly, because this will be hitting you. Even from a fiduciary responsibility, you could argue, how does it feel from a fiduciary responsibility if you cannot explain how this technology and how this data drives you to certain conclusions and making investments?
So I feel like oftentimes we see these step changes in pension funds and sovereign funds from a crisis. There's some crisis that's like, oh man, we got to change everything because we were screwing it up before, and we only realized when the crisis came. in looking from the outside in, it looks to me like you built some kind of an innovation culture. I think you even had an innovation team. It sounds like you have, prizes, which kind of goes to my thinking, do you have innovation compensation for people? Was there a crisis that preceded all that? Like, were you running out of capacity in managers in the Netherlands that forced, did your central bank give you some bad news about your discount rate?
Well, don't talk about the discount rate. Or that's not really. Right. It's Friday evening. I need to drink. Now I really need to drink, actually. This is not helping. No, but literally, the Dutch pension landscape is dramatically changing there. Already for years, there is a change in the pension law was in the making, which has been approved last year, which literally will be forced the very well-known, important, solid Dutch pension landscape, top 2, 3 globally with the Danish and our other friends there. We will have a big change and move from DB to more a DC, CDC-like system there, and we need to be finished in 4 or 5 years' time. And it might be changing the landscape. And we have our first tech company who says, well, I'm going to offer it for, €15 or something like that annually as admin cost, while the average pension funds looks at, I would say, we're not that cheap. So we need to get cheaper, but it might be a factor 10, 20, 30 more expensive with the smaller pension funds. So cheaper, but I think, and that's the biggest change. I think that's the biggest change. 6 years ago, I would say the communication between a pension fund and a participant was that once a year you get your trusted uniform pension overview on paper, which says, okay, and dear Mr. Prins, in 15 years' time, your annual pension will be X, Y, Z. Okay, should be good. See you next year. I think nowadays modern participants do not expecting once a year a paper overview anymore. They do expect an app. They want to know, where are you investing in? ESG, are you investing in the big bad boys that sell cluster bombs? If so, then you're not. I don't want you to be my pension fund. So the dynamics with the participants are completely changing. So it needs to be much more participant-oriented there. Participant-centric, even if you would say pension fund-centric. Communication needs to be faster, more in-depth in terms of data. So you need to embrace at that moment, really, I would say, the whole omni-channel interaction with your participant there, because that's what people are expecting nowadays in society. And if competition landscape changes and in a few years' time you are head-to-head with, insurers or tech companies moving into, I would say, the pension space, because there's still a lot of money there, then you need to be building upon that competences. So no, we were not in a crisis, but we do expect a big crisis ahead. Is it a crisis? It's a big change. And that's really where we have been anticipating on, which is now really central in our 2025 strategy going forward.
As I hear you talk, there's so many big successes that we've talked about, right? Where you've created tech companies and spun them out, and you've prepared for this dramatic sea change in your firm and in the broader industry. You must have had some kind of successful failures, right? Where there's something that happened. A lot. I wonder if you could talk about one of them.
I want to talk. I need even more drinks now. No, but I think in all reality, it's indeed tempting to talk about all the successes. But if you look at the failures or the important learnings there, technology is complex, or can be very complex there. So making sure that between, I would say, the broader business, whether it be portfolio management or risk management, and the tech people, is a common understanding on how a certain piece of technology can add business value. That's a big thing. It's also about, I think, a second big topic where we're dealing with at this moment is guys, we need to shift more to a more, I would say, commercial mindset, where you need to deal with scarcity, also in terms of even stricter in managing your cost base. So, okay, you want to do some cool experiment, and you want to invest how much? 500K? Okay, so what can we expect there? This is the free money. How free is the money? So having a more, I would say, business case or value-driven approach. Innovation is fun, but Horizon 3 innovation in 5 years is cool and disruptive. But I need McKinsey-style Horizon 2 and Horizon 1 innovation that creates business value and investment return in 1 to 3 years' time, max there. So I need to commit myself now. Well, guys. Which is also a learning there. And still facilitate a learning culture. And coming then back to the culture there, I think the biggest dilemmas at this moment is not about tech. We have made our choices. I love blockchain. We're user of the financial markets there. Works for the admin, not for investments. At the moment, it's tokenized, and I can trade nominals of 500 million or 100 million. Then we might be using it. The big thing for us will be all about AI, machine learning, and data. Okay, that's the easy part. And then the question with your employees is, how are you going to manage the workforce transition there? And if I don't think I need this, I don't think I want this, I don't think I understand this. So some of the biggest, not necessarily failings, but learnings is, I would say, almost like if you want to get into a relationship, what do you always say? If you want to go fast, go slow. So pushing it too hard and pushing these technology too fast, that's not the way to go. And there where you go just too fast, then you're just losing the people that might not be understanding, having the competence or skill yet, or might just be afraid that technology will be automating their work and they will be becoming redundant there. So taking your time, that ultimately understanding that this is not a technology or a data change. The biggest transformation here is the workforce change, and which is driven by technology and data. But the learning that is not about pushing technology and data, but it starts by, I would say, taking individuals and teams and the organization by the hand and give them the new shiny tools and weaponize them to do their job in a different way. That is, I think, the biggest learning, where literally I would say then the failures has been if you lose individuals, if you lose teams, if you get the reaction that it's a technology push, guys from IT, you're pushing it again, or technology people saying you don't understand how you can use this in your business there. I think these are important stuff there. And last but not least, I would say during all these implementations, which is natural for in an innovation perspective, we really, really, really needed to learn to kill our darlings. We got a great idea. We're going to implement it. And then it almost works. Give me another 100K. And then it's after that 100K. Now it's almost work. So it's all the fallacy that you really do not want to kill your darling because your idea is so great. There might be alpha signal in this data set or whatsoever. And then really decide to quit, to call it quits, and just move on to the next experiment. That is something, and people let go, and not saying it's a failure, but there's just no business value there, which is okay. And let's move on to the next idea. And that's maintaining that innovation culture there and making sure that you continuously try to move as an organization, utilize what works, implement it, leverage on that, and cherish the learnings there. Those are some of the key topics that we really had to spend some time on ourselves to reckon that this is what we need to master. Otherwise, we will not be successful in the upcoming years.
It's amazing. First of all, I'm super happy to hear that in order to go fast, you have to go slow, because that gives me hope for the American pension plans that are stopped. They're just biding their time for the big
we
moment.
lead the world at going slow.
So slow, we're going to go so fast.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. You mean go slow in the direction of the innovative thing. Deliberate process. I'm only joking. Look, Marcel, I think we're getting near the time, but to me, it sounds like you've built a culture of it's okay to fail, and that like oftentimes in these organizations, I'll tell you, like the only way to like lose your job is to innovate and fail, and so have you made it okay to fail, to kill your darling, and not have consequences for your career?
I think so.
You're still here.
I think so. No. Yesterday I had just an open Q&A session with the whole COO team. We do that just digitally once a month, which is no PowerPoint slides, no fancy speeches or whatsoever, just a Q&A like this, and then it's somebody calling and say, I want to talk about this and this. I think the key topic we discussed yesterday was psychological safety. And how to move from feedback to feed forward, and how important is in a culture to feel psychological safe to step forward and asking a question to your COO in a big group, or feel in a team psychological safe just to keep feed forward to your colleague there, or step forward and say, okay, this went wrong, and take ownership and taking accountability there. And I think it's ultimately about these kinds of cultural elements that lay the foundation there to move from slow and accelerate at that moment, because you cannot do that in a command and control mode top down. It gets you a long way. Yeah. But literally we are setting I don't know how you call that, the side rails, how do you call that, next to the road? Guardrails. Yeah, right. Yeah. So, these are the boundaries, guys. These are the boundaries there. And between those boundaries, go. We love Agile. And Agile is not about giving freedom. Agile is about setting very clear, this is the architectural direction, and have fun within it, discover and create a value there. So it's being very clear, which is unacceptable. And between that, give people the tools to learn, but also, and that is again, I think, why this is more a workforce transformation than a technology transformation. Create a psychological safe environment for people to say whether okay and whether uncomfortable. And as an example, we now have our boot camp, a data camp boot camp there, which is open for everybody. There, where next to myself, I think my boss and I are now in a speed race to have the most experience points in our introduction course Python, setting the leadership by example, and there are rankings there, and, and then it's open for the whole organization there, and it's about again also that people see that it's okay, there. So psychological safety and working on that is the fundamental layer of trust, which is required within an organization to allow to fail, I think. But it's also ultimately, I would say, a culture that we think not only the old workforce, but especially also current generation that cares about responsible investing, that knows tech, that grew up with tech, that doesn't know what a fax machine is. A fax, F-A-X, look it up on the internet. They probably have a picture. Otherwise, ask Ashby, he sends a picture, and he still has a fax machine. No, so it's that culture that you need to build and cherish, because those are the fundamentals of tech revolution.
Marcel, thank you. We've gone over the time we wanted to grab with you, but
thank you so much.
you are also, I want to call out, you are also an author. You've written some astoundingly good, just brilliant papers on alternative data and data camouflage. And so I just want to congratulate you on those papers. They're fantastic.
Well, thank you, Ashby Monk. Can I echo that comment? My dear co-author in this. So it's always a pleasure.
You can really count on Ashby to talk his book.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's an amazing book, There's some key chapters there that, I love it. So
Put it in the show notes. No, thank you, Marcel. Have a great weekend. And we really do appreciate it. It isn't every day that I hear an innovation slogan that's new to me, but I have to admit, moving from feedback to feed forward is actually what I hadn't heard before. So, and I love it. I love it. We need more feed forward.
Very good.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Enjoy the day. Bye. Carl.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
He's amazing.
Wow. So good.
Yeah, it's like he doesn't work at a pension plan, Like there's like most corporations can't figure out how to innovate like they are. It's crazy.
It's really wild. Yeah. I mean, I'm just having a hard time. Like that was such a scope of interview, right? Like we talked about, we went from the blockchain to like internal culture and change management to like maintaining a learning culture, and like kind of comp and very, very cool stuff.
Well, like the blockchain thing is like symptom is the wrong word, but it's like a symptom of like the illness of innovation. Well, how did they get sick with needing to innovate? And like that's why I'm like, is it crisis? Is it culture? What is it that like put that bug into that organization to really change and embrace technology? Because that's what other organizations will be able to replicate. So pretty awesome.
Yeah, and fun fact about the fax machine, I was actually able to update the Wikipedia article to say that my buddy invented it, and it stuck there for like a year and a half.
No,
which like shows you the depth of curiosity that there is about the fax machine. But with that said, it is time. The time that everyone, well, first it's time for a little bit of a plug. Beloved listeners, you might have noticed a few innovations recently rolling out on this very Free Money podcast feed, right? For instance, our episodes are now numbered. Can you believe it?
That is a big step.
That's a big step. Yeah.
In front of our episodes.
It's like, sometimes the small innovations can be big ones. But there is also a whole website, freemoneypodcast.com, where you can do all the stuff that we tell you to do all the time, like ask us a question or, other things.
This is getting serious, Sloan.
Yep. Merch will be happening soon, I guess, probably, once I figure out how to do it.
The next thing you know, we're going to have a non-fungible token for this episode, and people are going to be able to own it, and it's going to be fabulous.
Well, that's actually that's so funny you should bring that up, because that's the first year FB question. Yeah. So
right, let's hear it. Let's jump in.
One of our listeners has heard that people are getting rich off of these non-fungible tokens, which they have been. I think the Wall Street Journal had a big story about about a financial analyst who put $175,000 into basically NBA trading cards that are now worth $20 million. So the listener wonders, how do I create a non-fungible token?
I think these things are pretty fascinating. Look, I grew up with an artist, so it's fun to see. My mom's an artist. She's an oil painter. Sherry Monk. You can look her up on the Etsy. And it's just so fun to see like different ways in which art get delivered. And like, this is a new form of art. And so if you're an artist, or, you have a collectible or an antique in the digital world, I think you're like on your way. Ultimately you have to have something to sell. I can remember like the funniest thing I ever saw for sale on eBay was air from an event, they would take bags into different rock concerts or NBA finals and close the bags and tape them. And then you would purchase air. It's the ultimate vapor.
Vaporware. Wow.
Vaporware. But look, I don't know where this goes. I don't even I don't know how you like make it and sell it. Do you know, Sloan, how you make an NFT?
I think you just kind of do it. Like my sense is that there
some hash, right? There's some barcode that.
Like a lot of these are like tech firms that are making there's the digital sneaker tech firm that has their own blockchain that'll sell you digital sneakers on their blockchain. And honestly, the thing that to me is so awesome about this is like, I mean, so my cousin runs an art gallery in Brooklyn, and I spend a lot of time talking to him about the economics of this stuff. The artists usually don't get to benefit as the art that they make appreciates in value. But within the NFT mechanic, they get a 10% cut on each subsequent sale. So like if you're like
every time it transfers, it like triggers a wire to the creator.
Yeah, exactly. Or a hit to the whatever Bitcoin account that they have. But I really like that. I think that's a democratization kind of, and in a way a decommodification of some of this stuff, because you're involving the creator more directly in it, and you're not just creating these like strictly financialized entities. Like you did. Like you do with, I mean, regular art is all about, will the MoMA buy this and how soon?
Right. Yeah.
The
funny thing is, like, at first I was like, is this like prints where there's like, 200 prints signed by an artist? And it's not that really, because a print is like a share. It's not the original, right? And so what you're actually buying is a share of an original moment. It's it kind of reminds me of like Garden State, where like she like does this little dance in the room, and she's like, that was the first time that ever happened in the history of Earth. This true original moment in human history. And like that's kind of what we're trying to put a wrapper around, these original moments, and then give you a right to own that original. So it can't really be a print. It's actually quite the opposite of that. Anyway,
it's like syndication. Like Seinfeld is in syndication. It's so cool what these crypto kids come up with.
Oh, these guys!
I just like to watch the innovations. But speaking of innovation, the next question, I'm really interested in your answer to this. President Biden has appointed Tim Wu and Lena Khan, who are two of the most prominent anti-monopoly academics. To the Federal Trade Commission. They're not yet confirmed, but this makes a breakup of some big tech companies more likely. Besides lower housing prices in Silicon Valley, perhaps, what effect would that have?
My initial reaction is that I hope it kind of scares the crap out of these companies to stop being so freaking creepy. I have to tell you, Sloan, I watched this Netflix documentary this week, The Social Dilemma. And like within 24 hours, I had deleted Instagram, WhatsApp, and Facebook off my phone. And I had like, if you got a note saying I was on Signal, it was because I had watched that freaking
holy shit. Yeah.
Like this is the creepiest shit. This is like potentially like gonna like destroy humanity, And so, I like the idea that like some of this dominance and like manipulation might be called out,
Yeah.
It's probably time. I don't know if like, I hate to call for regulation and all the good stuff that people freak out about, but I do think some oversight and some understanding and some challenging, just to understand like, how did we get so politicized? Like, it's amazing. Yeah. Like when you see this documentary, you'll see like the politicization in our country is directly linked to the rise of these platforms. Right. And so,
that's like, I mean, that's really terrifying. I don't know. I like my Instagram memes. I'm so conflicted.
Sorry. I know you're like, Instagram's not Facebook, right?
Yeah, no. Yeah, I know it is. I know it is. It would be.
Just watch. You know what? I was actually going to force my children to watch the documentary.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Like you get extra TV today, but here's the catch.
It's a documentary. Oh, Dad, we don't want to.
Can I do iPad while we watch it?
Dad, no. You're always talking about trafficking, about how data is good. How is data bad now?
Data's bad now, dude. See this documentary.
Yeah.
All right.
Last question. What would it take for you to become a vegan?
Oh, what would it take? Very minor nudge.
Yeah.
This is like being vegan today is not what it was in 1978.
I'm like effectively vegan now.
Like I buy purposefully Beyond Meat. I love it.
Yep.
I'm not even a vegetarian. Like I'll do anything. But like, and I purposefully buy this popcorn that's like cheesy, non-cheese popcorn. It's vegan. Super delish. And so I find myself like doing a lot of vegan food already. And like, it makes me feel good that like I'm not contributing to climate change through animals.
Yeah.
That's like the part that feels good. But I admit it makes me feel good because it tastes delicious. Like
it's freaking great. Vegan ice cream is better than non-vegan ice cream if you get the right kind. Like Van Leeuwen vegan ice cream.
Coconut milk stuff in that?
Oh yeah, it's the coconut milk ice cream.
Dude, it's freaking nuts. You get the coconut mint chip.
Yeah, like what?
There's like nothing better.
Yeah, it's really. I mean, and that's where all the innovation in food is going. Because people are like, oh, can we like replicate that texture with like cashews and stuff? Like that's really
totally.
That's super exciting.
I met a guy at Stanford who was building a company, and he's like, I may just like recreate the world's best grilled cheese sandwich. And what you need to realize is a cow is just a biological engine to convert grass and grain to milk and then cheese. And so why can't I go back to the grass and grain and do the same thing, but create an even better cheese that is the best melting cheese? And I was like ready to give him my money.
That was so hard.
Sandwich, but to build the damn company, I was so excited about the freaking grilled cheese.
Hell yeah. I mean, like that's, I mean, we got to buy that with the free money SPAC, obviously.
This is part of our SPAC. Yes.
Grilled cheese innovations. You heard
buy our NFT so that we can launch our SPAC and get grilled cheeses that aren't made from cheese.
Yeah, we're getting the next like Elon Musk style flywheel of like, fangirls and fanboys, fueling a rocket ship to the moon. But
literally.
That about does it for us today, though. I mean, like if you have questions about vegan ice cream or anything else, just please freemoneypodcast.com. Click the little ask a question widget. And
if you made it this far, why not give us 5 stars?
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Even if you're mad at us.
That's a good idea. Yeah. 9 out of 10 people who do that are glad that they did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that other guy's a jerk.
9 out of 10 times it works every time.
Yeah, exactly. Bye.
Bye.
I'm looking like money, 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 money. Now make it rain on them.